One of my favorite Taylor stories ever, in all the like thousands of hours he's done on this show, is when he told us he listened to Game of Thrones. I forget which book what it was, maybe the second or third, and then he couldn't follow it, and he realized that he was listening to the audiobook on shuffle.
Yeah.
And whenever I retell this story, it bombs. I'm like, this is the greatest story in the world.
It's so good.
No one likes it.
It's so good.
Damn,
Well,
this
they
is a
can't.
confusing ass
You've got
story.
you've got to be in that mindset of that time, though, right? When Game of Thrones, at least for us, and I it seemed like all of the internet and social media and the world was this transcendent cultural thing. Like people, there are a lot of girls running around right now, 4 or 5 years old, named Khaleesi. Okay, it was a big fucking deal. Yeah, those whores are gonna be stripping soon. And but so
what are they, 4 or 5? So what, maybe 10 years from now?
There's a lot of livid chances out there.
But yeah, it was a big deal. So listening to the audiobooks out of order was just it was like such an awful thing. It was like the if you had done that to someone else, I'd be like, oh, too far. Like it's that shitty of a thing.
And I can
to
also
experience.
Put myself in Taylor's shoes when I hear the story anyway, and think that it's not inconceivable that I just do that. Like, accept blame for my inability to follow and not blame it on this, especially the way the story's told, because it's like, hey, here's the John section. All right, here's the Ned section. So you can just, it just makes sense the way it jumps around, how you might accept responsibility for why you can't follow.
Dude, this thing
I want to talk about this shitty back patio though. Like, what happened?
Yeah, and how did you allow it to get there, and how do you live with yourself? These are the questions Kyle and I have.
Well,
What's going on?
it's the patio that was there when I bought the house, like the concrete pads and everything.
Shifting
and
blade, carry
I
on.
just haven't done any. I haven't done anything to it because it's like fine, but it doesn't. Like, there's a big crack in it. Yeah, it's been a mere 4.5 years, and it doesn't, like, it's fine for having my smoker, my grill, like my patio set, all that, the swing chair, like all that shit out there. But it just doesn't look nice. Like, it's not like pavers. It's like big giant concrete, like square blocks, like 8 of them all together. Each one's probably like 7 feet by 6. It's big, and there's like big cracks in it, and it's got that shit that like the previous homeowner just like sprayed in there to try and foam it up, or like that rubber stuff. And so there's like multiple of those track lines throughout it, and so it just looks shitty. Fixed. And so now that I'm looking at, like, I might want to get. I was looking at a hot tub, and I don't want to put it out there on a patio that's not super
easy
nice.
Fix.
Is it
what?
easy?
You ever
I want to go before Kyle, because I think it's an incredibly hard fix. So let's do the problem before the answer. To me, if a back patio is shitty like that, and you need like good pavers done to make it look really nice, you have 2 options. You can either rip all that shit up with your own muscles, lay down the pavers, and if you're like me, when you're finished, you have just a different shade of horrible back patio, right? Because the prep work on the earth it's a skilled task to get that done well. And you know, if you're a regular person who's never done it before, your first effort is not likely to look pro. On the other hand, if you hire somebody to do this, it is curiously expensive. You're like, what?
It's
$9,500 or something stupid like that. And it's like, it's not easy. But Kyle, what do you got?
I grew up doing this, like pouring concrete pads and making them look nice. Like, we did that all the time on the farm. There would be like those big feed bins you see, the big like steel tall things you climb up on a ladder. Those have to sit on a pad, and constantly they were making you upgrade. And you're like, now you need a bigger bin. Now you need 2 bins. Now you need 3. So we were always doing that.
Bin?
It holds tons and tons of feed. It has 5 metal feet at the top. It's like a huge hopper that holds many thousands of pounds of chicken feed.
Okay.
And
this thing sits on a concrete pad that needs to be done well. And
yeah, I've poured many concrete pads. Also, like, we poured the pad for the back patio at my dad's house. I did that pad, me and my dad, just us, and the concrete guy, like, pouring the concrete. I've done it a bunch of times.
Have you ever done? So I've poured some shitty pads, and I've poured concrete that like encase a post, you know, but I haven't done anything that like people are gonna stand around and enjoy barbecued food.
Yeah, so you're gonna dig the ground up, and you're gonna have stakes and strings, and then you're gonna lay boards, plywood boards, to sort of frame what this thing is gonna look like. It doesn't matter how tall they are. It's just that you're making this bowl, this concrete proof bowl or square bowl. And once they pour the concrete, you've got time. Like you've got many minutes, 30 minutes to get it right. It? No, not well. After the fact, painted it like in a garage type situation. You can get them to go over it with this machine that will get it perfectly smooth. If you want it to be like really nice, or what we would do is just take a 2x4 at first, and it's the most. It is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
You're smoothing it?
It's using a 2x4, and there's a man on the other end of the 2x4, 12 foot long, and you're raking concrete. You're moving the concrete like it's, pushing it to the corners and making it all fill in and everything. It's so laborious pushing liquid concrete, as you might imagine. And then, but you would get that machine guy to come in and polish the thing up. And you would have a really smooth surface that you could then paint like a garage floor, and it would look good. I think that's what I would do. But
I had someone
$10,000.
I had someone come out and give me a quote. This was a year ago. Like I called them and was like, "Hey, I want you to come out," and they did. And I was like, showed them the back patio. I was like, "All right, if I want all of this concrete torn out, removed, and then a new, pad poured or pavers or whatever the situation would be, and I want it to look like this. Like, what am I looking at?" And like she was sitting at my dining room table with me, like showing me the quote and everything, and like it was $22,000.
Whoa,
$22,000. I like kind of almost like laughed.
Big is it?
Probably 15 by 35, 15 by 40.
Oh, that's pretty.
Okay, it's a big area.
Yeah, the concrete around my pool, I want to say it cost $40,000. So it's a lot of concrete. We have like a couple doors that we wanted to get them all linked together, and we wanted an area big enough to put lawn chairs, but like the kind you lay on, like Adirondack or whatever. And also we want to look nice, so it's tan, and they use some sort of mat that like you put pressure on, and then when you pick it up, there's a pattern in the concrete.
Oh yeah, I bet that's special for the sides of pools. You don't want people slipping.
Yeah,
right?
use some grip.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so that explains why the cost was high. But concrete's curiously expensive, and like Kyle said, possible to do yourself.
Maybe I lived in a bubble. I grew up 3 miles away from Morgan Concrete Company, and they would just run us a truck over for. I mean, a whole truck of concrete was like $350 or something like
9 cubic yards of concrete.
It's just so long ago. I'll have to ask my dad what the prices were, but I remember like a pad would be like a few $100s worth of concrete for like something that was maybe 8 feet by 8 feet or 10 feet by 10 feet, like a spot like that. But the more
I'm sorry to cut you off. 9 cubic yards of concrete is $1,400. Which makes it totally reasonable that Kyle, as a kid pre-COVID, paid $300 something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It sounds like you got the expensive part. I would imagine of what you're doing is getting that shit up, though. Like that is a mess that requires machinery and men doing laborious work for
like
hours.
Looking at the concrete pads, they are so thick and like they're big boy. Like I don't know what previous owners of this house, like what kind of activities were they doing?
Like how thick?
I mean, like the actual pads themselves, like they're like thick on the ground, thickness. Like the height on the ground of them, like they're just big.
Yeah, how deep? How deep
like
was
it? Probably like that.
Okay, 4 inches or so.
What would you say to doing it yourself out there with a jackhammer?
I cut my hand today putting a solar light in the front of my house. I was putting those stakes for some solar lights out front, and I'm
you look like you're built for jackhammers, though. I feel like you'd be good at that.
I could do that. I could do the jackhammering, but I was like just putting these solar lights in the ground and like a retard, like in the rock bed of like where where my Japanese maple and my rose bushes and stuff is. And I went to put one down, and I was like, oh, this one's giving me some trouble. I thought it was like I just needed to push a little harder with like the solar light, those little things on the side of the walkways. I thought I had to push the stake down a little harder to get past that little kind of fabric barrier you use under the rock to keep weeds from growing up. So I like went and it doesn't ever work. And I pushed down on it and it like broke with 0.06 pounds of pressure and I punched downward and sliced my finger up on the plastic and like literally had one of those thoughts I was talking about earlier with Michael, where I had an instinct to be like, you fucking idiot. You can't put a goddamn solar light in your front yard. You go outside for 40 seconds of yard work and you cut your hand so much, you take 10 minutes and go put gauze on it.
I'd never make it in the real world.
I'd never make it in the real world. Thank God your job tonight is being a retard online for 4 hours. And I had to tell myself, like, no, that's just an honest to God mistake. These things.
No.
Okay.
I do the same thing when I cut myself, though.
But
that's when it's deserved.
It's just you're annoyed at yourself a little bit. Hey, you pushed too hard on the cheap piece of Chinese plastic. It broke and you cut yourself. Calm down. Like,
no, that's where I like to be angry at things. I can be angry at that things literally. I'm much more apt to get mad at a thing or me fucking up a thing than I am at just another person. When I cut myself that last time, my stupid foot, I was just yelling at myself as I limped through the house, dripping blood everywhere. You fucking idiot! You fucking idiot! You fucking idiot! Let's go to the ER, asshole! Since you've just crucified yourself.
Oh, did you drop a kitchen knife on your foot? Is that the one?
Trying to catch it. Yeah.
I thought it had gone through my foot because the blood was running between my toes and then under the bottom. So when I looked at the bottom of my foot, there's blood coming out of the bottom. And it was a big, heavy knife, so sharp. So it could have gone through my foot as far as I knew. So I thought I was fucked up. And I told him when I got there, I was like, I think it went through my foot. I'm not sure. I didn't want to look.
I don't want to look.
It's wrapped up in a t-shirt.
So this is gonna scar.
Now it's fortunate.
The hair covers the scar.
Tendons cut or anything.
It hit a nerve. And so if I like scratch the scar, it's all tingly.
Oh, yeah. Your foot has lots of like important shit right on the top, which sucks. They should put it in the middle.
It went like between my, I don't know, to the right of my middle toe on my right foot, if that makes sense. I got a solution to your hot tub situation.
All right.
How about you ignore that ugly pad that's there right now, and we just get the hot tub in somewhere else, the other side or the other corner or somewhere else.
Indoor hot tub in my sunroom.
No. Outdoors, but just not there where the concrete needs to be removed. Somewhere else. You don't need concrete for a hot tub.
Can we cover the concrete with something? Just I'm asking, and I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you were to lay pavers on top of the concrete and use that as your perfect foundation, is that stupid?
Wouldn't it be all wonky?
It would be wonky, and apparently that would put way too much weight on the ground on the outside of my foundation wall.
Would the earth break?
Oh. The house could fall into the earth.
Like I don't know.
If you put too much heavy stuff on the planet, then it breaks in that spot.
the patio I'm not dealing with. It's fucking fine. I'll put I'm an idiot. I'll put the hot tub somewhere. There's plenty of room in like the.
Have you looked at hot tubs? You got a brand in mind, a size in mind?
Yeah, I picked like not a brand, but like I don't think I want more than like 4 people.
Put the hot tub in your front yard.
Mistake. So,
I'm gonna do it here. Like,
so you want a hot tub that will seat at least 6 or 8 people. You want the big one because you're gonna want to stretch out in there. No, because your legs touch the other side if you don't get one that size. When you sit down and just stick your legs out, they touch the other side. That's lame.
No, not if you get you get one with like a lounge section. It has like a lounger and then like 3 other seats around it, like 3 normal seats with like different.
Oh yeah.
And then like on the side.
That's what I had. It was sort of a.
So it's like the same size as like the 5 and 6 person hot tubs, but it's only like 4. It says because that longer seat. But like other people can just sit there if you wanted to sit different.
Is it for entertaining?
Entertaining and like I love reading in the hot tub, and so I want to like.
What if your hands get wet?
I'm just using a paperback book. I don't care if the book gets fucked up.
You don't mind touching paper with wet hands?
I don't care. No.
Okay, just me.
Oh, that's just
that is just you. That wouldn't bother.
Let me tell you how weird I am.
When I was a kid, like when we had a hot tub for like some years, I would all the fucking time go out there at night when I was like 11, 12 years old and just read in the hot tub until it was until I was like, I need water desperately.
Where is this hot tub?
This was like when I was a kid at my parents.
Your parents?
Yeah. I think they got one when I was like 11 or 12.
When I get in the hot tub, I have OCD about my hands. They can't be wet and pruny. I'm very uncomfortable. They can't be dry. Like they have to be moisturized.
You're in a tough spot. Yeah.
You would not have enjoyed the swim team, but carry on.
Oh, I couldn't have done it. I literally couldn't have done it. It would have ruined the idea of like I'm rubbing my hands on my seat right now to remind myself that my hands are moisturized and clean. Like I'm like they're good. You're good, bro.
My hands are filthy. I cut out washing them entirely.
Growing up, working out, or working. When my hands would get dirty, like sometimes we'd use paint thinner. We'd be painting a car, and you get paint thinner on your hands. My dad would just wash his hands with paint thinner sometimes because he'd get car auto paint on them, and he'd be stripping it off.
It's the perfect thing to remove paint and some other stuff.
It draws all the oil out of your hands, and suddenly I'm like, like I need to go home and moisturize my hands. I got to get some fucking lotion. I had to wear gloves doing everything.
We're the opposite.
I would wear gloves doing everything.
I'm quick, but if I put turpentine on my hands or paint thinner, I think it's the same thing.
Maybe.
Afterwards, they feel very cool and super clean, and I like that state. You hate it, but to me, I'm like, this is the cleanest my hands have ever been. I can't explain the smell, but it's
like denatured alcohol.
I was cleaning my bong earlier today before the show, just pouring some of that like 90% isopropyl alcohol in there to like shake around and remove any residue. And like you described that like cold, like clean feeling, like some of that isopropyl alcohol like splashes off, gets on my hand, and you get that immediate like cool and perfectly sterile and clean feeling. And it's like, man, it's probably not good for me to like dump this on my hands all the time, but this feels good. I feel so
in an emergency
clean.
you can use alcohol to cool yourself by putting on your skin. Obviously, Captain Picard taught me that. They were crash landed on this planet, and the man had they had no water, but the guy had a little bottle of alcohol that he was sneaking swigs out of, and Picard was like confiscated. It's like, we need this for emergencies or cooling or disinfectant. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That would cool you down.
Yeah. Alcohol evaporates faster, right? So you'd think it would cool faster and better.
It does.
Yeah, when you spill that isopropyl stuff on you, like you wouldn't even have time to wipe it off. Like it just...
Apparently 70% is better for disinfecting wounds. Something about 90% isn't as effective as 70% for disinfecting wounds and killing bacteria.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Well, for bongs, you want 91%.
You sure do. Yeah. You want to dissolve all that nastiness in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because you're using it as a solvent to break out is it
tarry? Yeah. It's this tarry, sticky, disgusting shit that gets off of
the only good shit to clean out glass is isopropyl alcohol, and if it's really rough, you can pour some like kosher salt in there with it, or that shit that they sell at every head shop, 420 cleaner or whatever it is, which is like this goofy ass smelling blue paste with a bunch of beads in it that you dump in there. And the way it always goes is you go and you go, oh, well, I just used fucking 2/3 of the liquid in there and not enough of the sand. So it's all off now. And it like blasts through weed shit so fast. It's like,
those things are a health hazard. You would imagine that
bongs or
bong. Like I remember my drug dealer, his bong was so goddamn disgusting that there had to be bacteria or something growing in the water.
I mean, the same way like a health has, like if you never clean your fork, it's a health hazard. Like, I will not smoke out of a disgusting bong. If someone has a gross bong, that shit's like that. The thought, like when I have company over,
pinkies in the air, Taylor.
When I have company over and I know that we're going to be smoking, even if there's just like a small bit of residue on the outside of the bong, I blast that away. When I go to someone's house, I have one friend in particular who's anal about his glass, like always has to be meticulous. It's so wonderful to go smoke at his house because he'll be like, you want to go hit the bong? And it's like, you mean that pristine thing that you probably cleaned 15 minutes before I got here? Yes, let's do that. Then you have some other friends, especially in college, where, you know, that drug dealer fucking, shit, I almost just doxed him because I realized his nickname included his whole name in it, but we called him Kush. And he had a bong that was like, he was sick often. So like, I think that might have lost it. Like it was, he'd never cleaned his
bong. A lot of upper respiratory.
Do you judge your friends on the quality? I don't know bongs, but I think that our sponsor makes really good ones. Those like glycerin, whatever. Mm-hmm. Does your friend have a bong of comparable quality, or are you slumming it over there?
No, he's like, it's funny being like a real adult now, because like I go to a friend's house and it's like, it used to be like, oh, we're going to smoke out of this fucking Diet Coke can all dented up. And now it's like, oh, I'm going to smoke out of, hey, we can use my nice ass bong with the glycerin chamber, or we can use your fucking nice ass $400 bong with fucking 3 percolators in it and every layer. It's so much better than it used to.
It's funny having a little budget. And I'm not talking about like real generational wealth or anything, but like when you go to the Quickie Mart at the gas station, and it takes discipline because there's no budget problems. There is not a candy bar in that whole store.
That I give me that Zagnut bar. I'm made of Zagnuts, baby.
It'll be like, sharing size. And I'm like, I can afford to eat this whole thing. I don't have to share it at all. Or some sort of king size or family size. Like all your decisions are not budget driven anymore. They have to be driven by some other responsibility.
My willpower.
Kyle. My mom hates my mom when I was a kid, and always, I'm sure, hated my uncle. And I didn't know why. And I remember one time she told me,
her brother?
No, it's my dad's brother.
Okay.
And I remember she told me once. I remember one time we were all in our car, and him and his family were in their car, and he got out and went in the gas station and got a honey bun and ate it in there and came back with nothing for anybody. And I was like, fuck, Daddy would never do that. She's like, no, he'd never do that. He'd get you a honey bun first. And it's like, it's so true. Like, that's so true. Like that, if there was going to be one honey bun, like he wasn't going to be getting any of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah. But it more than, life is a honey bun.
Life is a series of honey buns that don't matter.
You just
nothing matters and everything's all right.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
You mentioned new Coke.
I agree.
Did you that new Coke switch was, I think this is like common knowledge now. It was like a total, like a way to trick people into not noticing that they switched from sugar to corn syrup. So they take Coke off the market. They bring out new Coke. It sucks. They bring classic Coke back with corn syrup instead of sugar, and people go, yay.
Do you think that was the plan from the get-go? They didn't mean to introduce a bad Coke.
Yeah. They introduced that in order to make it less obvious that you're pivoting from sugar, which is the same reason that Mexican Coke is so good. Like if they would have made that switch instantly, sugar to corn syrup, you get noticed right away. And so you've switched to a different product that sucks intentionally, run a short run of it, and then switch to the new product, which saves you a shit ton of money at the old flavor that's close enough.
I can't buy it. I was around for the new Coke introduction and the ad blitz for new Coke and the excitement. Everyone wanted to see it. There were these Coca-Cola wars between Coke and Pepsi. I can't think of another A versus B comparison that was the same level of just like cultural dominance. Everyone, are you a Coke guy, Pepsi guy? What are you? We went on a field trip in my school to see a Pepsi bottling company. It was like everywhere. And when they came out with new Coke, it really seemed like they were trying to give you a better Coke because it was losing the taste tests to Pepsi.
I think it was just a smart business move to like trick consumers and save a bunch of money. Pretty shrewd, but like I think they're they're a very smart company. Well, it wasn't
they got a ton of free media. Like I bet did they lose money in the end? Like the whole thing was this media storm. It's before my time, and I know about it. I know how big of a deal it was. Remember,
you get a second media storm at the end of it. Oh, they're bringing back Coca-Cola Classic, the favorite beverage of the planet. Like.
They're masters of marketing. I'm telling you, if you ever go
they're smart
to it next time you're in Atlanta and you want to waste $50, head over to the Coca-Cola Museum. Okay, they will show you a polar bears movie that'll make you wish it was a full movie and not 15 minutes of not a 15-minute commercial. And then they'll make you stand in line to walk into the vault where the recipe is kept in a box. You will see no recipe, of course. You will just stand in line to look at a safe deposit box, which is most assuredly empty. Then you'll be led to a back room at some point with concrete sticky floors where you'll meander past many 360-degree pedestals that dispense sodas from around the planet that
Thai
for whatever
lemon
reason,
Pepsi, Thai
for
lemon
whatever
Coke.
reason, the most powerful fucking economic force in existence. We don't have it here. They can only get it in Guatemala. It's the good stuff, though. Trust me. And you get to try like cinnamon fucking Coke and like all these ridiculous derivations. And at first you think it's cool, and then you realize a lot of these kiosks are the exact same 18 mystical flavors. Like it's just set up that way so everybody can have one. And then you actually see some glass bottles being made. It's a fucking nonsense. You see some machines make a few glass bottles, and then I don't even think they give you one for free. They might though. They might actually sell you a Coke at the end of the fucking tour.
Factory tour in the world is. Have you been on the Hershey Park factory tour?
No.
Making it. Oh, there is a ride you can take where you experience the journey of like an M&M or whatever Hershey's bar along next to one. So like as it seems like they're really making Hershey's bars over there. And I was young, but I still think they are genuinely. This is a real factory that produces Hershey bars. And then you're in this like cart, I don't know, like big Hershey's Kiss or something. And as you go past the heater, like fuck, did they really turn it up to 110 for this part? Okay. And then they cool the chocolate off and you're freezing in there. And they give you the whole tour. And there's people in, I guess they're called bunny suits, like the hygienic, suits that cover your hair and everything. And Hershey's tour is pretty legit. I enjoyed it. And I had a similar tour that Kyle talked about, but with Pepsi. And it was so effective that like 42 years later, I am still a little bit loyal to Pepsi, which was their goal.
It's made in Jersey, right?
Pepsi
where?
Is?
It's made. I'm asking you. I don't know.
The tour was. I don't know if their like headquarters are or anything.
I used to know because I watch all that shit on YouTube, like the behind the brands and like the food that made America and all that stuff. So I watched one on Spam the other day. I was fascinated. I loved it. The whole thing about the Hawaiians eating the Spam.
Does it stand for salt preserves all meat?
They don't know what it stands for.
Okay.
They broke down a couple.
I thought it was like
apostles.
a joke about ham.
It's they had 2 or 3 ideas for what it might stand for, if I remember it correctly, in the documentary that I watched. But I think it was big for World War II. Obviously, they sent millions of cans over, and they were afraid that because those guys have been eating it every day, like fuck, they'll never buy a can of Spam again. But it was the opposite. They got home and they're like, you know what I want, honey? You know what would make me feel comfortable? Why don't you cook us all up a can of Spam? And then the sales went up.
I've never had Spam.
It has a very distinctive flavor. If you ever want to taste it just for the hell of tasting it, make sure you get the low sodium version because 1 can of Spam has like a week's sodium supply in it. Even the low sodium, that 1 can far exceeds your daily sodium.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy amounts.
It's like it's preserved meat paste.
It's salted ham.
Yeah. It's like an emulsified and reformed salted ham paste in a can that will last until your grandchildren are long gone.
I have a can because I bought it after I watched that documentary, and then I realized I didn't get the low sodium version, and then someone talked about how much sodium was in it, and I was like, I can't even taste that. If I take a bite of that, it's going to give me high blood pressure. Like,
do you guys ever watch documentaries or videos about how the food you're eating at the time is made? Like,
it's a terrible idea.
No, I do this. Like I'll eat a steak and I'll like watch a YouTube video of like how a cow's butchered. Like the guy is in there, he's like showing all the cuts. Or I was eating Cheez-Its, of course, or maybe it was Goldfish, and then I found how it's made of that. It was like Cheese Nips, some off-brand thing, and I'm just like, damn, this is kind of neat. I was on I'm eating saltines. I'm on the Wikipedia page for saltines, watching how it's made soda crackers. I don't know. I guess this is less common than I thought it was.
No, my viewing like what I'm watching will often influence what I end up eating. I watched Family Guy the other day, and it's the one where they sing. Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? It's so friggin' good. You remember this?
Yeah, I know that one.
And I was like, no, I've never put butter on a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Dude, I put butter on a Pop-Tart, and it is so friggin' good. It's outrageously good. You put it on the back of the Pop-Tart, the non-frosted side.
Mm-hmm.
It's tremendous.
Well, I'm sure butter can't. There are very few things that butter makes worse. Butter's a S tier food stuff.
100%.
Face wash. Face wash? Is that?
It makes face wash worse.
I think he's got you there, Taylor.
I saw like a CC
Makes
camera
moisturizer
video.
better, Kyle. You can put it on your hands.
All right, you win this round.
I saw a CC camera video the other day from like a movie theater or something, and this Asian lady goes over to the butter dispenser, the popcorn thing, goes squeak, squeak, rubs it in her hands, and then rubs it all over her face.
I want to make sure nobody sit next to me at movie.
And then walks away.
She needed more pimples.
Like maybe
I'm going to have my own whole section for Endgame.
All I could think was maybe she thought it was hand sanitizer and she really wanted to get clean. She likes that feeling Woody likes when you rub alcohol on your skin.
How soon after you rub movie theater butter on your face are you like, I have to go home. Like I need to rinse this off. Go in the bathroom and just hit that thing and then try and splash water from the 6 tiny streams that come down into the bottom of the sink before it unsets itself. That is one of the worst things about modern society is that people can't be trusted to just have a normal turn for your faucet. How far have we sunk that at gas stations and places, you have to wash your hands with a push because there are people out there who can't be bothered to turn off the faucet. And we all have to live in this world. It's the cart return conundrum.
You know what? I would rather have the push that you described.
You return your carts?
The sensor.
Always.
The sensor that you wave around and like do a little jig, maybe Running Man, try to get it to work. Just me.
It could be.
Kyle,
when you return that cart, you're taking food right out of that cart man's mouth when you do that. You know what happens? You know what would happen if everyone returned their carts like Good Guy Taylor? The cart man would be out of a job. Okay, you know what I do with my cart?
His job is to bring the carts from outside back into the fucking store, dumbass, not to collect it.
And the harder that job is, the more laborious, the more difficult and time-consuming it is, the more hours the man gets, the more money he makes.
That's the same reason some all trip waiters was they're bringing food to the table.
I'm a job creator.
He takes his Home Depot carts and brings them to Lowe's and vice versa. It's just to make busy
Sometimes
work.
Kyle doesn't even need to go shopping. He just goes there and he pushes them around.
I go and I push all the carts up into the grass and toss them in the woods down below. And look, he's out there for hours. I see him. I sit across the street at the other store and I watch him through binoculars while he works.
We learned verifiably Kyle and I are both smug bitch assholes. And one thing
Definitely
I am
me.
a smug
I don't think
bitch
he could accuse you of being
about
smug.
is I am smug about returning carts. I always return my cart. When I see somebody do that, leaning it up on the island, I fucking hate that. I hate that.
Is there any excuse for that? What if it's pouring rain?
Just walk and return it. It's like, it doesn't take long.
I asked you a question.
There's no excuse. Just do it.
There is no torrential downpour that will dissuade you from returning that cart, even though you know it might go away later and a cart man might be able to return it in the sunny. Really? What if it's not?
What I didn't tell you is that I park always in the handicap space. And so, which is right next to the cart return, and that's they call that beating karma. They call that a net neutral on karma. As you park in.
I take it a step further. I park in the cart return just to fuck with people like Taylor.
I park directly in front of the cart return. You shut my car, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Is this a mentally handicapped guy trying to get by? I'm boxing him out. Oh, you're gonna have to want it. You gotta want these carts. I'm a job creator. Show me."
I return them, but I'll admit there have been times when, like, it was raining and I propped that shit up somewhere. I was just like, I'm not getting soaked over whatever. Like, I ran out of there. I've definitely left it before, but it's not a practice.
One thing I will do is I'll like ghost ride it into the return, and if it doesn't like go into the next cart or whatever, I just call it good.
Oh yeah.
That's fine.
I'll be honest. I try to hit it from as far away as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever sometimes there's like 5 of them that aren't quite lined up in there already? You ever try and you just throw it in there hard? You're like, I'm going to try and re-rack as many as I can into there.
But then that gate pops out at the end and you just shove 15 shopping carts down a hill. you got to run for it now.
They're fucking taking my carts, Rick.
The truth about cattle ranching is
they're great downhill runners.
It's putting along at walking pace so nobody gets scared. And the actual like skillful part is catching the stragglers who get lost and stuff and like getting them back. That's the only time you're driving cattle is when you're like, dude, you're back here. The herd's a mile away. Yeah. And you're like, the goal is not to be like, we need to spook them all the correct amount at once in that direction. It's like, no, then you don't have cows anymore. Our cows would get out all the fucking time. all the fucking time and escape. They're very intelligent. Like shot.
Can they jump a fence?
So high. These big fat literal heifers can jump over your goddamn head. And if they crash the fence,
really, I'm like 6'6".
Yeah, I know. 7'6" maybe. Depends what you're standing on. Really. I've seen, and if they don't quite make it, there's still a 1,200-pound animal, so they just crush it. I saw one lose a teat jumping over a fence once. She ain't fucking care. They're hard fucking core.
And they also like once with the jumping thing, sometimes all it takes to teach them that it's that fence is not scary is one of them getting over it, and then they all instantly know, like, wait, this thing we've been worried about is nothing, and then they'll all just start barreling through it.
Something I've never understood: when your electric fence stops working, they find out that day, which means they are always testing the electric fence, or they can hear some sort of electromagnetic hum that's imperceptible to us. I'd love for a scientist to actually look into that instead of how to turn children into monsters or something. That would be get into the cows, guys. Like figure that out, because that fence would go off.
Make them 3 times as big, more meat.
Which means somebody tests, and it hurts, right? It's fucking. I don't know if y'all ever been zapped by an electric fence.
A friend of mine, when I was like 10 years old, me and my buddy Alex, we went down to my grandparents' farm because we like to like paintball and ride ATVs and mess around on the farm. And we were up by an electric fence, and my buddy Alex was like, I'm gonna pee on it. And like at like what we know now through Mythbusters is that if you pee on something, usually it's like all the droplets, like it's not a continuous stream back to you by the time it gets there.
I peed on it, nothing happened.
Yeah. And he was going to, and I told him not to. And in my head, I was like about to see like I remember the thought I had was the same thought of like, oh my God, what happened to Marv in Home Alone 2 is going to happen to Alex.
Picturing it.
Yeah, I was picturing as he's holding the fucking thing. Dude, that scared me. And then he did a skeleton for a second. That scared the shit out of me.
Well, see, Kevin looks at him and he's screaming in pain and convulsing from the electrocution. And Kevin thinks, oh, he needs more, and starts turning the amperage up on the stick welder. He's got this he's got a fucking stick welder hardwired into the goddamn sink. And when he turns it up, Marv's screaming goes to a much higher pitch, and he turns into a skull that you can see with hair.
Yeah, he like flashes to like skeleton and back, and that really, I would look away during that part. I would like get up and like pretend I had to get a snack when I was like 8 years old watching that.
That's Home Alone 2, I believe.
Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Donald Trump in that one, in one part. He gives Kevin directions. Good guy. I've been shocked by a fence a lot. We always had electric fences in the pasture in the house. Well, no, because
I walk up to it every day. I found out I would test it.
I like to play with it. I liked getting zapped with it. One thing you should know is if you've got shoes on with rubber soles, which is all shoes in existence, you won't get shocked at all. You know, you can just hang on to that wire and you'll feel it. You're grounded slightly because rubber isn't. No, it's true. Rubber isn't a perfect insulator, so you'll feel like this little tap.
This feels a little like when I told everyone battery acid tastes good. Like, this is terrible advice.
First of all, it does taste good. So does antifreeze used to, until big fucking, I don't know, pussy boy came in and made everything safe. But no, you can hang right onto it. It won't hurt you. And unless you take your shoes off. You can take your shoes off and you grab that motherfucker, and then you feel what the cattle are feeling. And it feels like a real hard punch in the body. It's significant because it's a pulse. And at first you're like, is it? And then it hits you. The other way you could fuck up is I would have my hand on it and I'd be walking along. And if you're not paying attention, your hand will also touch the metal fence post, which will also ground you. So then you'll get shocked in your hand incredibly painfully. What you can also do, and this is hardcore, I would show people the trick. You got shoes on? Doesn't hurt. They'd be hanging on to it. I take my shoe off, put it on the ground, ground myself, and grab them. Now we both get the real dose. It's great. You can do the same thing with the spark plug on my ATV, my four-wheeler. You could. That thing's incredibly painful. I don't know much about electricity, like amperages and voltages. It's all numbers, but it hurt.
You did not have a lot to do at times.
No,
like just making up activities, and
we fought wasps. We fought wasps. That was our favorite game. We made
shooting them with the 22.
No, we made gadgets and weapons and bee suits, and we fought them all summer. It was our favorite thing to do. There's nothing to do. We're on a farm. Like you could fish. It's too hot to fish. Like the sun's beating down on you. Like there was,
we're out of wasps' nests. It's gonna be a terrible summer.
When we ran out of wasp nests, then we had to like find other shit. We would shoot stuff. Job. I would shoot stuff and blow stuff up. That's all I did for fun. I would just, make little devices and play with guns and blow things up and experiment. There was nothing else to do, and everybody loved it. Whenever somebody would come over and like, hey, wait, what do you want to do? Hey, there's an old dead cow in the pasture. You want to blow her up? Yes, yes, we do want to blow up your dead cow. Why didn't you tell us that's what we were doing today?
Is this a thing that has utility, or it's just fun?
Just fun. It's like completely full of maggots. It was really disgusting.
You do it in front of the other cows. Set the tone.
But if you told me, like, I don't know, if you blow a cow into 600 pieces, it decomposes faster. And...
You should bury them. But this one had died and, blew her up a little bit. We blew up a pig one time, like a whole dead pig carcass. And there was, I'm not joking, Taylor, there was nothing left but the snout. That's all we found. They took the snout and put it in the grill of my truck without me knowing it. And I drove like 6 hours in the summer with a pig snout stuck in the grill of the truck. But when it blew up, what rained down, and every now and then I recognize this in Ukraine, is like these ribbons of fat and flesh that are created from a large explosion. It's lighter, it's very thin, like wispy stuff that rains back down. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's flesh that's been exploded, and now it's this thin wisp of like a layer of fat or skin or something. But we turned that thing into mist. We put so much shit in it before we blew it up. I mean, it was.
That sounds like a fun Saturday.
It was. We bought it from an Amish man. Had to lie to him about what we were going to do to it because at first when we told him, he was really off on it.
Well, of course, he's Amish. That's probably against their religion. They don't.
A Mennonite.
Well, they're more okay with blowing up pigs, but only if it's for work.
All the Mennonites I've met have been super into guns, like so much so that it's kind of scary. You get the same feeling you get when you talk to militia people. I know normal people don't talk to militia people, but if you ever talk to a militiaman, you can imagine. How about this? You can imagine what it's like talking to a militiaman.
Yeah, and that's what they see themselves as militiamen.
The Amish guys that I've talked to were all like so up on federal regulations for firearms and suppressors and full auto and everything, interesting in the gun world. And they all owned that shit. The same guys who wouldn't own a tractor had an AR-15 with a silencer and a scope and a fucking laser,